Right, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So, it seems like a lot of people are dogpiling on Joss Whedon here. Now, I firmly just want to say, hey, look, I am down the line on this. Neither way, you know, neither side do I kind of sit on this, which is potentially some of the worst, because people really don't like it when you're just down the line. But it is what it is. Look, egomaniac Joss Whedon faces claims that he told Buffy stunt coordinator no one would hire him again and demanded stunt double break up with him or leave show, basically. Now, that's the stunt double for Buffy, not the stunt double for him. He's clearly not working, as he's clearly not doing anything, let's be honest, right? It's clearly not for him. Now, this comes hot off the heels of some other claims that were sort of levied against Joss Whedon recently, which was to do with Ray Fisher and his work on the Joss Whedon cut, I guess, whatever, of Justice League, right? How he took over from Zack Snyder. So, this isn't new. You know, comments and critique made against Joss Whedon isn't new. But what is seemingly happening here is mounting commentary against him. And it's surprising, I guess, to a certain degree. But, you know, when there's lots and lots and lots and lots of evidence that starts to pile up, you have to have a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't outrightly just believe it, obviously, when there's no evidence and it's all circumstantial. But, you know, let's just see how it pans out, I guess. And the thing about this is that there's definitely a situation which could have been, you know, created where he's just irritated the wrong people, right? You know, the thing is, we don't know any of this stuff, whether it's true or not, but it is still interesting and it's industry news. This is a man that was withdrawn from public life for some time due to an open letter penned by his ex-wife about how he was predatory and stuff like this. So, you know, he's withdraw from public life for some time. He started to come back, but now there's more accusations made against him. Are we seeing the death of Joss Whedon's career? Who knows? One thing's for certain, though, cancel culture is still just blooming. It seems one thing which can't be cancelled is cancel culture. One thing just to say, hey guys, look, I'm making a movie. In 6 days we actually begin shooting, but it's also on that day the GoFundMe and the competition closes. So if you didn't know, I'm making a film. It's a high concept horror fantasy film. It is practical effects, that's the kind of aim we're going for. Like an homage to the 80s in some regard. So if you like any of the stuff which I like here on the channel, I really firmly think you're going to like the film. So check it out. We're crowdfunding. It's down below in the description box, the GoFundMe. And if you donate $5 or more, you're in for a chance of winning a hoodie, which can be signed if you want it signed by the cast, as well as a prop, which again can be signed by the cast if you want it signed. So check that out. It's down below. Now, let's dive into this, right? So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer's showrunner, Joss Whedon, who's like the creator of it, has been described as an egomaniac who told stunt coordinator Jeff Pruitt and stunt double Sophia Crawford no one would hire them again after a disagreement on set. Now, that sounds like, to me, like they had an argument and things were said at the heat of the moment. Just from that. I don't know about you, but let me know your thoughts. Now, the Avengers director worked with Pruitt and Crawford, who doubled for Sarah Michelle Gellar, for 4 seasons, Buffy, before the row that would lead the pair to leaving the show for good. So it was basically the icing on the cake. It was the reason why, you know, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Now, the couple who got engaged while working on the series and who are now married have alleged to metro.co.uk, you know, that font of journalism, that Whedon demanded they break up if Crawford wanted to continue working on the show, and after they refused, they found other directors reluctant to work with them, which is a shame. You know, a shame. And if you pair this with the open letter penned by his ex-wife, it sounds like he just wants women to himself. But again, who knows? Like, that's just what it sounds like. This can be people jumping on the bandwagon. Again, skepticism is really important with these things. We can't just outrightly believe everyone. Otherwise, you know, you'd believe that pigs fly. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Have some skepticism. Have some constructive thought behind it all. You know, if they've not worked with anyone for a while, maybe they sold this story to Metro. Did anyone consider that? Probably. Now, Pruitt has also claimed that his home computer had been keylogged, with one producer allegedly confirming that they had copies of every email he'd ever sent since he started the show. Okay, well, who cares? Like, I mean, unless you'd said something really, really terrible, then, you know, it's dependent, isn't it? Like, is that a works computer? Is it actually owned by the studio or the network behind the show? Because if it is, then they're well within their right to do that as long as they are made aware of it at the start, which sounds like maybe they weren't. But again, you can't outrightly say, oh, well, invasion of privacy. It might have actually been studio's property, right? So anyway, it goes further. The stunt coordinator said that we had a great relationship, Joss and I, but he changed as the show took off. He went from the humble writer who used to turn to me for ways to shoot fight scenes into a real egomaniac who believed his own hype. Then again, maybe he was always that way and I was simply too naive to see it, as he never showed that side to me before. We'd always supported each other. Sophia and I kept going for as long as we could, but tensions grew and certain members of the crew began to plot against each other, including shady things directed at me behind my back. And this is the stunt double for Sarah Michelle Gellar and, of course, the stunt coordinator. Got to say, doesn't look a thing like Sarah Michelle Gellar, but hey, whatever. Although we loved making the show, by season 4, I'd become fed up and told them I was going to leave to direct second unit on another series. The producers told me that Joss reacted as if I was having an affair or something behind his back. Well, if you're an integral part of the team, it would be quite a blow. So I can appreciate his initial anger, but obviously it's dependent on what happens thus, you know, after that. Now, Pruitt went on to say that he was also asked to come back for season 5, which he agreed to before Whedon called him to say he was meeting with Crawford. He continued, Sophia didn't tell me till later that he'd asked her to return to keep being the Slayer, but he had one request. He wanted her to break up with me first. She refused and left. She was disgusted by this. But then also, that's questionable, isn't it? Why is your girlfriend or your fiancé, you know, meeting with a director behind your back and not telling you? That's slightly odd, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. That is slightly odd, especially after the incidents that apparently occurred. You'd think that you'd be transparent with each other, wouldn't you? Yes, I think so. And again, I'm not trying to defend Joss Whedon, but it starts to not really add up, you know? Crawford added to Metro, I really love Buffy, but honestly, Joss and Jeff had a bit of a falling out, and I'm sure it should have been resolved, could have been resolved, basically. Sorry, this thing's jumping around like an absolute douchebag. It could have been resolved if they just talked it over. But I was called into the office and I was giving an ultimatum, and they said to me, come back to the show, but you need to leave Jeff, or don't come back. And so I basically started crying and said, F you, that's horrible, bye. She added that she's grateful for the opportunity that she had and had a great relationship with most of the team on the show. I can kind of see a little bit more of a likeness there, actually, to be fair. Yeah, sort of. After further disagreements on set, which saw Pruitt speaking out on public Buffy forum, and Whedon claiming he told lies about him, the stunt coordinator said, finally, I simply reached down and took his hand. I shook it and told him how much I'd loved working on the show with him. I wished him luck, and I left. He looked stunned. Joss told both Sophia and I that no one would ever hire you again after this. He never says to anyone that he'll see to it that you never work in this town again. He's very careful. He only insinuates that no one will ever hire you again if you don't please him. Yeah. I mean, that's doggy stuff, isn't it? That's really not cool. But you know, it's a bit odd that you're like, you know, claiming victim while speaking out on public forums and stuff like that. Like, people probably wouldn't want to work with you due to professionalism. You know. Maybe. Like, I've had people, like my film alone, right? I've had lots of people that attempted to do business with that were absolutely atrocious. I'm not going to badmouth them publicly. It's just professionalism. You keep it to yourself, right? Because you don't piss where you eat or shit where you eat. It's just a bit odd. However, he explained that due to having friends in the industry, he continued working and said, in spite of Joss, Sophia and I both went on to make more money with less heartache than we've made in all Buffy years by working on other projects. So it doesn't sound like it affected you, so what's the big deal? Odd. Still, I must admit that sometimes I've been offered a job only for it to suddenly vanish. That's pretty much the norm in film, to be fair. really is. And I've been told that they wanted a Jeff Pruitt type, but it can't be Jeff Pruitt. That actually has happened a couple of times. Pruitt added that, as it turns out, Sophia told me that during her meeting, one of the producers accidentally blurted out that they had had copies of every email I'd ever sent since I started the show. This was odd to me because I only emailed from my home computer. How could they? Well, that is odd. How could they? Later on, I was told that there was a rumour that some employees of the show who ventured into the Bronze forum, Buffy Online forum, okay, to talk to the fans after the show, that basically the keylogged place in their systems. I don't even know what that was back then. Afterwards, I did, and in fact, I discovered a keylogger on my computer. Well, I mean, that's all hearsay, isn't it? Basically, it all sounds a bit weird, to be honest. Really, most of the show and our memories of it are great. We had a terrific time, but there were some dark moments near the end too. I can't deny that. Each of us has our own dramatic tales, blah, 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 blah. Characters who perhaps had a fling in one episode would turn around, blah, blah, blah. This is actually how it was behind the scenes with the cast and crew. Oh boy, they're murdering one another, were they? Really? Come on now, behave. It sounds really incestuous. And it sounds like a really toxic environment anyway. You're saying people just having flings left, right and centre. Our real life true stories are way more over the top than any screenplay for the show. In fact, some things in the show were partly based on real life, relationships between some of us. I mean, that doesn't sound good, ladies and gents, does it? That doesn't sound good at all. And the director's not responded to Fisher's claims or Pruitt's claims, etc., etc. What do you think of this? I just think it sounds like, I don't know. I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Joss Whedon because, like I said, he kind of left public eye, stopped doing lots of stuff, and now he's doing things again. But is this the end for Joss Whedon? Who knows? Love to hear it though. So anyway, please do let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Stay up to date on the world of pop culture movie news by hitting the bell notification icon. Thank you all so much. Take care.